Hello and welcome to the OverSeers. I'm Nightwing, joined by my co-host Proilios. We'll be covering the Vancouver Titans prospects coming into the 2021 season today. And yeah, what do you think about how this team's looking so far,
Uh,
Proilios?
this team's kept some of its pieces from last year. They pretty much had a down season because the sort of uh, I don't want to say deal, but they fell through with the runaway players, right, that they had from season two. Um, then they picked up some players from contenders, and stuff just didn't work out. They had like a promising player like Shockwave signed later on, but he's gone to the Fusion now, and the teams are in a pretty bad shape again, I would say. But yeah, once we discuss the individual pieces, we'll actually go over why they look like that. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on it?
Uh, yeah, I think this team was quite disappointing and did get a lot of hate from people. Uh, so a lot of it was undeserved because I mean, at the end of the day, they're just players. It was the Orcs' decision that really messed up the runaway team. Um, but yeah, I mean, this team was not very impressive last season. Definitely very close to bottom tier. I mean, very close to rock bottom, pretty much. Um, Thankfully, Boston was there as their savior. That's not looking like that's the case this season. I think Boston is looking better than this team. Uh, and Shockwave was definitely a factor that at least helped them look good in some places. Um, so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this team ends up. We'll discuss that later when we compare the Titans to the rest of the league. So as usual, we're gonna start off talking about the tanks, then the DPS, then the supports, um, and then we'll just round it off by talking about the staff, if we have anything to say about that, and the team's overall prospects coming into this season, and how we think they'll fare. Uh, so yeah, we can kick it off with talking about the tanks, which are ShRedLock on main tank and FRD on off tank. So what do you think about how ShRedLock has looked so far?
So ShRedLock came in season two with the new pickups that Vancouver made after Runaway left, and ShRedLock I think was one of the most disappointing main tanks we saw. He just played Orisa for the most part because that's what the meta was like. I mean, Double Shield was still pretty strong back then, and he just played Orisa, which he looked decent on, I guess. But I mean, if you are going to be called a good main tank, you have to play like more than a good Orisa, right? You need to play Winston, Ryan, Ball, like hopefully multiple of them. But even just playing one like Super does quite exceptionally can make a difference. Uh, I mean, some people seem to be high on him, like from what I've seen on Reddit. But as far as I see, he's still quite unproven, and he needs to play well in the league for us to rate him that highly. And the thing is, he wasn't even playing on high ping, right? There were players like KSA and ShRedLock KSA and Shockwave, who were playing on high ping, but still did much better than he did. And I think he was in Canada at the time. He is Canadian. But yeah, overall, just a bottom tier main tank. I don't expect him to be good at all this season either. You can share your thoughts now.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree. I think uh, considering that even Boston has leveled up to using stand one now, I think he might genuinely be one of the worst main tanks in the league at the moment. Um, they did pick him up after he had some success with second wind at the beginning of 2020. Um, but after that, it's just been disappointment after disappointment, pretty much with Vancouver. Obviously, the rest of the team is nothing. Was not very amazing, like individually. So it's not like he was being dragged down. It's just that, like, I mean, I don't know. He didn't get a chance to look good at all just because the rest of his teammates were. pretty much in the same boat as him, apart from Shockwave, who did kind of stand out a bit.
Hmm.
Not too hot in ShRedLock. Uh, we can move on to FRD. What do you think about FRD?
So FRD is coming in, and by the way, he's now called Fried Wiener. He's got his complete name back. They removed it for like they removed the Wiener part for obvious reasons, but now he's like been restored to his full form now, at least name wise.
The
Uh,
complete large winner.
yeah, a complete large Fried Wiener. So,
Yes.
so Fried was an off-tank player for the Atlanta Reign. He was brought into the league in season two with the conception of the Reign, and he didn't see too much playtime last year uh, because primarily they wanted to squeeze as much value as they could out of Gator and Hawk's synergy. But I think overall, since Fried has joined the league, he has been pretty decent. He hasn't been top notch, but like probably league average on any hero he's played. He had some good showings on Diva when Goats was meta. He played a good Hog when Bunker became like the go-to comp in stage 4 of season 2. And last year he also played some Sigma for a couple of maps when they didn't put in Hawk for some reason. And he looked decent at all of those. Like, I don't think he's going to be a bad off tank, but I don't expect great things from him either. So, I mean, I think it's going to be just like he's going to exist and he's going to do his job, but we can't expect any sort of highlight reel plays from him, I think. Maybe occasionally, but not on a regular basis. Over to you, I guess.
Uh, yeah. FRD, I mean, I don't think he would really be average at this point. The league has some crazy off tanks. I would say he's probably below average at this point. I mean, season two, he was mostly benched by Darko, I believe. And in season three, he wasn't really played that much over uh, Hawk either. Um, not very high on FRD, to be honest. His Twitter is very good, though. It's lovely to look at. Just banger after banger tweet. Um, I don't know how well that will translate into a game, but he's had quite a lot of time off away from like the public eye, kind of. So I mean, maybe he's gotten better, but I honestly think it would be like he might have the ability to go up to league average, but I think he'll be kind of below, to be honest. Uh,
Hmm.
that's that's pretty much all I have to say. Also, interestingly, uh, if you look at the Liquidpedia article, he's made like $69,000, which is perfect for his in-game name. We can move on to the DPS,
Yeah.
unless you want to say anything about the rank line as a whole.
Nah, I think it's all cool. ShRedLock's just, like we said, can't expect much from him. And Friday, yeah, probably it's a fair assessment to say he'll be below average by now because of the additions to the off tank market this year. And but overall, I think Friday is like a pretty chill guy. I think every team needs sort of that chill guy to be around, so that even in high pressure situations, he can calm them down and reassure them. But I guess that doesn't translate into better gameplay. Uh, but yeah, I think that like point wise, I think we are done with the tank line.
Yeah. So next we have the DPS line, which consists of LiNkzr, and Teru and Dalton. So Dalton is staying on the roster from last season, and LiNkzr is going to be joining from Houston, and Teru is going to be joining from Contenders. Uh, so we can start with the player that they've kept, which is Dalton. What do you think about how he's looked?
So with Dalton, it pretty much came down to his tracer play last season. I think that's the hero that he stood out the most on, even though he wasn't like a standout player overall, like Shockwave was, right? Um, you could see that he was struggling to get picks when he was put on the sniper roles like Hanzo and Widow. Even on traditional hit scan, he wasn't that good. His tracer, like I said, looked good, but again, like being able to play one hero at this level isn't going to do it, right? His flex DPS play was pretty awful. He was put on heroes like Genji and mainly Genji, I think. I don't remember which other projectile heroes he was made to play, but
I think maybe Hanzo
yeah,
at
Hanzo
times.
even, yeah. So his Genji and Hanzo both weren't that great. I mean, I don't think you can expect him to play a good Genji either way. Hanzo maybe, but he's primarily a hit scan player, so uh, I like it would be unfair for me to judge him based on his Genji gameplay. But just overall, I'm not expecting him to do very well. I think he's not going to be fielded on hitscan over LiNkzr based on the structure that I see. He'll probably be played in double hitscan with LiNkzr or just be like a tracer specialist overall. But yeah, I mean, there's way better tracer and hitscan players in the league, so I would generally consider him like either bottom tier or at least like below average. What do you think of him as like being a tracer player yourself?
Dalton has been on the in the scene for quite a while compared to some of these other players. Like as far as I remember, I've seen him play since like the end of 2016, maybe beginning of 2017, and uh, he's been close to the top like during those times. Uh, I think some people, well, not even some, but like a very big batch of people pulled ahead of him, and he got kind of stuck in contenders jail for quite a long time. And initially, I was quite happy to see him come into the league. And in the first few matches with Vancouver, with him playing, I thought he was maybe even the best player on the team, honestly, before they signed Shockwave, because his DPS partner in Suna was very disappointing at the time. Uh, and it was pretty much just Dalton that was getting any picks at all on the Tracer and the Widow. I think once Shockwave came in, uh, then Dalton had to be the the bigger man and just let Shockwave carry, and Dalton had to pick up uh, heroes that were relevant to the meta, but maybe not relevant to his play style, or just the heroes that he was not comfortable with. And I think that definitely uh, put a dent in his uh, reputation, and in some sense. Uh, that said, you're completely right that at this level, you can't really be only known for your tracer or your widow. Um, Sad as that might be for someone like me. Um, it's just, I think he's not terrible. I think, uh, but he's definitely going to have a hard time being even league average as a DPS player. There's a lot of insane pacers in the league. And I don't see him winning 1v1 against like most of them. Uh, I could actually see him maybe winning a Tracer 1v1 against whoever plays Tracer on Dallas.
Oh yeah.
But apart from that, like since our team doesn't actually have a Tracer like one pick compared to every other team. Um, but apart from that, I'm not expecting too much from Dalton, but uh, I don't really blame him. I don't know. It's kind of confusing. He's a good player, but he's not quite up there with the rest of the league. Uh, and there's just so much rookie talent coming in all the time. Uh, and there's just a lot of established tracer players already that are already insane. Carpace, Striker, Edison, Birdwing. I think Dalton's just got his work cut out for him. I've talked too much about him just because he plays tracer. I'm sorry. We can move on to their first new edition in LiNkzr. Uh, what do you think about him coming in from Houston?
So LiNkzr is someone who's been like known for his traditional hitscan play for a while. He has played some flex DPS heroes like Genji and Mei fairly well occasionally, but overall you just probably think of Widowmaker when you think of like his play. Um, I think LiNkzr just has insane mechanical skill, and we've seen that in like even in his games on stream, even in the league at certain points, even like when he won that Widow 1v1 tournament during All Stars. But overall, these things, like, they only matter if you're consistent, right? And LiNkzr isn't known for his consistency. Um, he has had issues with like his gameplay as well as his mental. Like he's struggled to be remain motivated, and uh, it resulted in uh, like I don't know what exactly the problem was, but if you remember, they put Blase on hit scan on like McCree and Widow back in season 3 when LiNkzr wasn't able to play. And even in past seasons, his play has his play has been pretty inconsistent. So I think it's a pretty risky pickup by Vancouver. I think at this point they should be going for at least one stable hit scan player. It's definitely a downgrade from Shockwave, I feel, who was very consistent. He used to get picks very often and just pop off all the time. And I just don't think it's like it's a very big gamble to have LiNkzr on. I don't rate him highly because of his inconsistency. If he starts playing, uh, if he stabilizes like his level of play and just keeps popping off on heroes like Widow, I think he can do very well. But I'm not expecting that from him at this point because it's been 3 years and the trend should have changed by now, but it hasn't. So I don't know if you agree with me on that, Nightwing. So you can go ahead.
I've liked LiNkzr since he played with Team Finland in the World Cup and also on Team Gigante. I used to watch him play there. Uh, and I've always been a big fan of him, but over the years, it's just gotten hard for him to kind of cope up, I think. Uh, his mental, as you said, has had issues, and especially during a time where uh, we're still in the pandemic and teams are having to make some pretty rough adjustments. Uh, I'm not sure if it's the best environment for LiNkzr to thrive. And for that reason, I pretty much agree with you that I'm not expecting too much out of him. Uh, he definitely does have insane mechanics when he needs them, but for some reason or the other, he doesn't quite seem to work well with uh, teams over an extended period of time. And I think that'll kind of translate to the Vancouver Titans as well. Uh, I think obviously I wouldn't even compare him to Shockwave because I think Titans did actually kind of find almost a diamond in the rough there.
Mm.
Because Shockwave is actually quite a good player. And it is a big loss to lose him, but I'm also happy to see Shockwave going over to a better team. Uh, I think uh, this is kind of the season where LiNkzr has to show his stuff. Um, because this is probably going to be the like one of the bottom tier teams in the league. And so if he's not able to cope up here with the rest of the team at least, then it's going to be hard for teams to really consider signing him again. Uh, which I would hate to see because I'm also a big I mean not also but like I'm a big fan of LiNkzr and I would like to see him stay in the league, but uh, there's just a lot of insane players out there. I don't
I just like to say that the moment I started following the league, I thought LiNkzr was one of the coolest gamer tags I'd seen in pro play. I think it still is. It just sounds really cool to say LiNkzr. I
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think his name was like really catchy, and that's why I started following his play a bit more. And then I realized, wait, this guy can actually pop off. But then, uh, like I said, he had consistency issues, and I mean, it's I think really important at this point for teams to have some sort of support for like the psychological aspect of playing, because as much as I hate to say that he's a bad pickup because he can have a bad mental, it's up to the teams also to foster like a healthy environment for their players to thrive in. So you've got to invest in like a psychologist, like a therapist, to help your players deal with whatever mental issues they're having. And I think that can make a massive difference. I think if you can if you can just help LiNkzr like through all of this stuff, I think if that's what's holding him back, you can really turn him like into someone like Shockwave, where he's just popping off all game. It'll require some work, but I hope that they can do it. Yeah, sorry I
I
interrupted you.
I'm not that optimistic, honestly. I think the Titans management has just not inspired much faith, honestly. Um, they've made some very strange decisions and not really worked very well with the players. At least from what I can understand as an outsider. Uh, I, if LiNkzr would get the help, it's not going to be from the Titans. Um, I That's what I think. Anyway, we can move on to Teru, who I have been trying my hardest to find words for, but I cannot find a single word for some reason. I don't know if it's for just me not looking hard enough. I honestly spent like an hour looking through contenders videos to find a word of him playing, but I could not locate Teru. He's just a missing person that you see on like the side of a milk carton with like a silhouette on his face. There's a question mark. I
Haven't
don't
seen
know
this man.
anything about Teru, but apparently, but if that's the case, I guess he kept getting benched over by Proper and Pelican, um, which makes sense because I have watched Proper and Pelican play together on Auto Blast, and they were very good. Uh, but yeah, I am kind of drawing a blank on Teru. What have you seen anything from him?
So I too struggled to find words on him, but I did look like a little bit deeper. So Teru, like just a background on him, he's a flex DPS player from like who played most recently for O2 Blast, and he just hasn't played too much in contenders. It's not like he's played, but there aren't any words, right? He's just been benched a lot. Um, what I did when I couldn't find many words on him was try to search for montages of his, and luckily I found some. And overall, he just seems to be a really flexible player. He plays projectile heroes, he plays flankers, he plays a little bit of hitscan. Um, I Most of those clips were from ranked play, so I don't know if you can put too much weight into that. But if he's like that flex, I don't think any player that's uncomfortable playing so many heroes would even pull them out in ranked a lot, right? Because generally you do see like all these pro players playing their best heroes in ranked. You don't see them messing around because then they can drop an SR, and that does impact how they are viewed as a professional player. So with Teru, he's just not afraid to flex. He plays a lot of different heroes like Genji and Pharah, especially, which he's played the most in contenders, if I'm not wrong. And I mean, this, I think, sorry, this does solve one of Vancouver's biggest problems from last year, which is that they didn't have a proper versatile flex DPS. They had they had to put Dalton on that role, and he was just awful. Um, but the thing is, Teru is someone that wasn't talked about a lot, and we haven't seen much gameplay from him. And when that happens, I generally rate them a little bit higher because they got in through tryouts, right? You're not going to like. There's definitely not going to be any sort of um, I don't know, uh, how do you call it? There's not going to be any underhand means through which he's been acquired, I think, because he was like a relatively unknown quantity, and you're not just going to pick him up because someone told you he's good, like, or do me a favor. He's gotten in through tryouts pretty much. So I think we can be optimistic about him. Again, it's the Vancouver Titans, so we cannot expect the whole team to be elevated to that level. But at least Teru can come in and make them competitive in a lot of different metas, because he can play Genji, Pharah, played a bit of Doomfist, as I've seen, some hit scan as well. So there's some hope there, I think, for the Titans. He could probably be one of their better players. That's pretty much it.
I have no idea if you're correct, but it's good to have optimism for this team because it honestly kind of desperately needs it. Uh, there's not a lot of bright spots for this team, so if there is one, then that's good. I just don't really know. Anyway, we can move on to the supports, which is Rolf and Fire. Rolf they've kept, and Fire I believe they've added from Atlanta Rain. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start with Rolf first. He's on main support. No, wait, flex support. I don't know. I've seen him play Mercy for the World Cup, so I get confused. Um, but anyway, Rolf, like I said, I used to watch him in the World Cup. It was pretty cool because I used to root for Team Canada at one point. I used to like seeing short form agilities in the lineup. Um, but apart from that, like Rolf has not had very great showings like in any like competitive like format really. He's not really done very great. Didn't really do that great with Titans last year either. So I'm not really high on him anymore, at least. Uh, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Alright, so Rolf, I think, had a pretty quiet season last year. I don't think he was impressive at all. He's a veteran of the Overwatch scene. He's been there for many years, but his career's sadly not the trajectory is just not good at this point. Um, I don't think he's going to be like any better this season. Sorry to say, but I do believe he's still pretty much bottom tier when it comes to the flex support market. Because this is like the most competitive market there is to judge. And just like last year, I just don't think he's up to the task. So yeah, sorry Rolf, but that's what I think.
One thing to just like an interesting bit of trivia. Rolf was actually part of the original C9 roster that actually performed the original C9 in
Oh,
Overwatch. Yeah,
nice.
uh, it's not very relevant, but it's just something I wanted to mention.
Oh, I didn't know that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, we can move on to Fire, who's coming in from Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you want to go first or should I?
I honestly don't have much to say about Fire. Like, um, I don't remember him being fielded a lot, and I honestly, I don't know, hasn't made much of an impression on me. If you have anything to say, then go ahead. I honestly don't know.
So pretty much what you said is true, right? We didn't see him too much last year because Drain was still playing Masa most of the time. So they brought Fire in for just a few maps to play Brig, which looked okay, I guess, but it's Brig. Uh, I think Fire is pretty much going to be below average. Maybe not totally bottom tier because he had a good run with Envy when like before he joined the league for multiple seasons. So he definitely has some potential. I don't think you can actually like get first place in any tournament if uh, all of your players are not solid, right? They needn't all be like top tier, but they have to be competitive in some aspect. So I think Fire has like a little bit of something. Even when I was watching Deeperu's power rankings, he said that Fire is actually good. So I'm not going to say that he's a really weak player, but I really don't think he's going to be super competitive. So I'm going to say below average, but let's see. I mean, who knows if he can surprise us with more playtime. Uh, but yeah, don't expect too much. I think that's pretty much it.
He was on the same roster as like McGravy, Elio, Clausius, Sharp, that team envy, right?
McGreevy, I don't remember if McGreevy was on Envy. Was he?
I think
I
he
don't know. I
was.
really don't know about McGreevy. But yeah, Elevot and Sharp have been with Envy. I know that much. He
Yeah,
was with them, if I'm not wrong.
I don't know. Just maybe didn't pay enough attention.
Yeah, no,
I
Sharp
was.
and Fire were definitely together. Maybe Elevot as well, actually, because he was on Envy for a while.
Mhm. Anyway, so we've talked about all the players. Um, we can talk about their staff if there's anything you have to say about them. All I have to say is I just don't have that much confidence in them. Uh, I don't think most Overwatch uh, league followers really have any faith in them after the raw deal with I think uh, nothing particularly to say about the coach Flubby or anyone else really. Uh, if you have something to say about this stuff, then go ahead.
Mm, all I had to do to talk about this stuff was look at the Wikipedia pages because there's not like much talk about how they're actually doing as coaches. So Flubby is the head coach for the Titans, and the assistant coach is called PW. And they both used to coach Second Wind before the Titans, and Flubby was also on Giganti, like as a coach before that. So he has had a good track record in contenders. Now normally I would consider that to be like an optimistic sign, but considering how surprisingly bad Vancouver was last year, uh, I don't know. I'm not too high on him. I think we can cut him some slack since the roster was thrown together in a like quick and messy way. But he's still pretty unproven, and until he actually gets this roster to perform in multiple metas, I can't really rate him highly. So that's pretty much it.
All right, so then we can just discuss uh, how do you think this team fits in for this upcoming season?
I I think they could potentially be the worst team overall. I think they are like the one team that can be worse than the Valiant. Like at least I can say that quite confidently. They're definitely like the worst team in NA. I would say their tank line is below average. Their DPS line is also below average. I would say with respect to like either Dalton's just like he's restricted to playing the tracer role. I think LiNkzr is inconsistent. Teru is a relatively unknown quantity. I'm a bit optimistic, but still like that doesn't average out too much, right? And Fire and Roolf, I'm not too high on again. And the coaching stuff is also unproven. So that like all this just bodes really poorly for the Titans this year. I really don't think they're going to be competitive at all. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're almost definitely bottom of NA. Uh, and I mean, yeah, they could compete with Valiant for worst overall. Um, Spark could also be in that conversation, but I think they're still a little bit better just because at least they have Bushra. Um,
I'm gonna.
I think
That's going to be an interesting discussion, honestly, about this work in our power rankings episode. If you actually think they are going to be at the bottom, but yeah,
mm,
uh, we leave it for there.
we'll leave it for the power rankings episode.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, Titans, I think bottom NA, most likely, and yeah, I mean close to bottom overall as well. Uh, I don't really see much improvement coming out for this team, just because it's not that they need a few pieces to make things right. They need like every piece basically, uh, in my opinion, to really level up. And I'm not sure that's gonna happen. Uh, is there anything else you want to add, or should we just round the episode off?
Yeah, I think we can end it. We've covered all of our points. Yep.
All right, then. Thank you for listening. We hope you like this episode. The next episode we'll be doing. We're left with two LA teams. Which one do you wanna go over first?
Hmm. I I mean I don't mind doing either one. We've done an NA team right now, so I wouldn't mind doing the Valiant next. Like jump to APAC and back to NA again, but I also wouldn't mind the build up to actually the doing the Valiant review. So it's up to you actually.
I mean, you know how they say you should see, like how people say, last but not the least. Uh, I want to do a last but the least for once.
Sure.
So maybe we should do the gladiators, and leave Valiant for the last episode.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Right. Then we'll be doing the LA Gladiators next episode. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you for listening. We hope you liked it. Uh, and if let me know who you think is the best Vancouver Titans player. Honestly, I'm not sure. Might just be Fire, even though I don't know much about him. Could be Teru, but I don't know much about him either. It's the players that I don't know about that I'm optimistic about. The more I know about the players, the less excited I am about them. I could be inclined towards FRD though. I don't know. Anyway, so if you have an opinion, then comment down below. Uh, and yeah, thank you for how many times I want to say this. Uh, yeah, that's enough. Just cut the